Where my girls at? Where my girls at? Independent, free spirit. Ooh, it's something serious. Where my girls at? We ain't linked up in a cool minute. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. It's going out tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going out tonight. Yeah, right. It's going out tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going out tonight.
Monday, happy Monday. Hey, girlfriends, we are here. It's Sabrina, Caterina, Gloria, and Crisette. We are minus Caterina today. She is still celebrating her wedding anniversary. She is up and away. That girl has been quiet. We ain't heard nothing from Caterina.
Nothing. Right. Nothing.
She's shutting it down. That's the way you do it, Caterina. That's the way you celebrate. Yes, yes, yes. She was married on 12/12/12 at 12/12 in Atlanta, GA, at one of Gloria's beautiful mansions. When she had a beautiful mansion in Atlanta, GA, that will be a day we will always remember. So congratulations to Caterina and Anthony. How many years was it, you guys? Was it 8 years? How many years for them? Something like that. Oh,
yeah, something like that.
Okay,
I think it's 9.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, we wish you a wonderful, happy anniversary. It's Monday. It is Sabrina Monday with your Monday motivation. I always love hosting on Monday, our most favorite day of the week. A lot's going on, you guys. I got my Christmas tree. It smells so good. It's starting to feel a lot like Christmas. Live Christmas tree, live pie, evergreens for the wreaths. I mean, what a difference.
Wow.
Yes. And so I just know that tis the season. It's a Monday. Our prayers go out to our friends in Kentucky, where one of the biggest, largest, most devastating tornadoes ripped through that state. So we are definitely praying for our friends, relatives, family members in that state. You guys, please share this broadcast. Today, we're going to talk about fighting hunger. Make it a difference to fight hunger. We have a special guest on today, and she is director of food banks in the state of Oklahoma. And so all I know is that we have got to talk about something that people don't like to talk about. I mean, we got issues. Our country has issues. And so share this broadcast, share it with a friend. You want to know how to make a difference during this holiday season? Let's feed some people. Let's make sure that our neighbors are not hungry. Let's make sure where you're thinking about giving gifts under a tree, maybe there's a family who just wants a hot meal. And so please, let's go to the phone lines today. We can fight hunger together. We are girlfriends making a difference. We got issues. Call 313-778-7600. We talk about it all. Sometimes we're talking about red bottom shoes. Another day, we're talking about let's fix our problem in the USA. We're classy, we're funny, we're techie, we're happy, we're sassy, we're messy, we're ornery. We're all of those things. That's what makes us who we be. So Gloria, looking glorious in that green. How are you on this Monday?
I'm so good. Are you kidding me? Everybody's got to be good if you're not living in Kentucky or one of those other 5 states, for sure. You guys, I'm telling you something. There's something to be said about when you're knee deep in a celebration. I had no clue what was going on. I hadn't seen the news, hadn't been in tune, nothing. And so the world around me was fabulous till I got to the, eat some breakfast on Sunday, looked up on the TV. Sometimes when you're traveling, I don't turn the TV on in my room. So I had no clue what was going on. I looked up there and I saw what was going on. I was shocked. Girlfriends there, living in that stuff. It was just amazing. Came home, y'all, we have a trampoline in our backyard. Here in Maryland, the trampoline was blown over, turned over completely, like So the wind here must have been crazy. While I was in Texas, the wind here must have been crazy. You guys, 227 miles of a tornado. We really got to talk about some things. And we always stated just a little bit, but climate change is so incredibly real. Crisette, we got to have your guests back on. It's got to be an update. Got to be an update like every 3 months about something. As we go into the holidays and go into this thing, I'm loving this topic, Sabrina, because I love the fact that we talk about the easy things and we talk about the hard things, and we talk about the things that we can make a difference. But today I'm feeling really good. Today has been a chilly warm day in the Baltimore area. So I'm excited to get to this topic. And you guys, I want to really invite other people to call in on the show, because lending your voice makes a difference at 313-778-7600. I cannot wait to hear more. I cannot wait to learn more, and I can't wait to laugh more. So it's a serious day on one hand, it's a day to play on the other. Chris, what's going on? Crisette, Ellis.
Hey. You know what? Believe it or not, we're having some really Indian summer-like weather here in the Detroit metropolitan area. I mean, I was just listening to the news, and they're talking about one day this week, we're going to get into the 60s. I was like, let me go pull my bathing suit out, okay? Because 60 degrees in December, I can't believe it. So if, it's a few things, if you want to put lights out or you want to do something, like that, this is definitely going to be the week to do it. Sabrina, I'm really excited about your guest. I'm so excited to learn more about hunger. It's something, as you said, Gloria, every day you wake up, you have something thankful and grateful to be thankful and grateful for, and literally not going to bed on an empty stomach is right. One of them. And you don't right. even think about that, and I'll be the first to say we are so wasteful. We don't finish our food. We throw it down the garbage disposal, and the rest goes on and on and on. But you know what? I like what you said when you said this Christmas, find a family, find someone who may need a hot meal for Christmas. So I don't have a whole lot on today. I'm going to throw it back to you, Sabrina, so we can meet your guests.
Yeah. Well, let's get right to Bailey Perkins Wright. Come on in, Bailey. Let's give Bailey a big round of applause. Yes. Well, Bailey, we welcome you. Let me just preface this conversation. According to the USDA, more than 38 million people, including 12 million children, which just really is heartbreaking, in the United States, one of the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest country in the world, are food insecure. The pandemic has increased food insecurity among families with children and communities of color who were already faced with hunger at a much higher rate before the pandemic. So it's critical, it's crucial. Bailey, first tell us a little bit about you, what you do, how you do it, how long you've been doing it, and we just thank you for doing what you do. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You guys, she hails from Oklahoma, my birth state, the 5th hungriest state in the country.
Wow. Didn't know that. Hey, Bailey.
Yes. Go ahead, Bailey.
Okay. Can you unmute yourself, Bailey?
Yes.
On your laptop.
All hear me?
There you go.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. You think I'd be adjusted to this at this point during the pandemic with everything being virtual. Thank you so much for inviting me to the radio show. I'm so excited to talk with you all about food security. As Sabrina mentioned, I am based in Oklahoma, and I represent 2 of our food banks, which are our largest hunger relief organizations in the state of Oklahoma. Even prior to the pandemic, we had a severely high food insecurity rate. And our organizations are on the front lines leading the way to ensure that we can collect food and then distribute it out to those who are in need of food assistance. We're there in times of crisis, when people are experiencing job loss, whenever there are natural disasters. So I heard you mention in the beginning about the tornadoes that devastated parts of our country yesterday or a couple of days ago. And Oklahoma is no stranger, sadly, to natural disasters. And so we are there to ensure that when people hit rock bottom in those times of need, that we can ensure that people are able to have the nutritional value that they need.
So Bailey, when you say you represent 2 food banks, tell us, and also your official title is Director of Oklahoma Regional Food Bank, State Public and Advocacy Policy. And so there's a lot that goes on with what you do. So break that thing down.
Absolutely. So we have 2 food banks in our state, one that services 53 counties in central and western Oklahoma, and then one that serves 24 counties in the eastern part of our state. But collectively, our food banks serve the entire state of Oklahoma. We have more than 580,000 people who are facing food insecurity in our state. And we work with a partner network of pantries and organizations, schools, churches that expand more than 2,000 organizations that help us get that food into the hands of people who need it. My role as advocacy and public policy director is ensuring that the public, ensuring that lawmakers at the state and federal levels and the local levels as well, and other stakeholders are aware of what is causing people to be food insecure in our state, and then what things can be done to ensure that we get to those root causes so that people don't perpetually need our services. Oklahoma, sadly, has the lowest participation in summer feeding meals, and USDA ranks us as having the highest very food insecure population of children in the nation, right? And so when it comes to making sure our seniors are fed, making sure our kids are fed, we're playing an important role of not only what we call feeding the line, meaning getting the food in the hands of the people who need it most, but also trying to shorten that line of the things that are needed to help people get on their feet and get on that path to self-sufficiency. And so that's what my work does, is talking with folks and helping them talk to their lawmakers and passing policies that are going to help us in the long term.
Wow. Talk about the root cause. Let's go back to the root, because you've researched it, you understand it. For the general public, it is not easily understood. And so can you help us better understand the root? We kind of know the basic root cause, but the root cause and how we can make a difference as better neighbors.
So in short, when we're thinking about what are the things that lead people to be hungry in this country, it's some of the basic things that a lot of Americans face, right? Many people are a flat tire on their car away from losing everything, or a medical emergency or surgery away from, being food insecure, or they're a loss in hours in their job due to a pandemic away from needing our services. One of the things that we saw in Oklahoma, we saw increased need in our partner pantry network, somewhere between 30 to 50%, because there were some folks who had reduced hours during the pandemic. There were folks who lost their jobs during that time, and they had never needed food assistance before, right? And so there's just a number of Oklahomans and Americans, for that matter, who are just one life situation from not being able to put food on the table, or having to decide, do I pay my bills, or do I, get a nutritious meal? And then when we're looking at a group like our seniors, sometimes we forget that many of our seniors are on fixed incomes. And last year in Oklahoma, we had an ice storm in October that ravished a majority of our state. And it hit us for about 2 weeks, to where when that power went out, and it took a long time for our power company to be able to restore power for that volume of people, because we're talking about millions of people impacted. People lost their food, right? And so they relied on the services of our food banks and other entities to be able to help get by and replace those items. And so when we're looking at what's causing people to be hungry, it's, people don't earn enough to be able to keep food on the table. There in Oklahoma, the minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour, right? There are some folks who have really high cost of their prescriptions that makes it hard to keep food on the table. And then, of course, just the basic things as costs continue to go up with inflation. So we're seeing a lot of reasons why people continue to be hungry.
Inflation, one family emergency away from being hungry. Bailey, we got to take a station break. Callers, call us at 313-778-7600. We'll be right back. Thank you for listening. We're back. Yes. We are here. The force of friendship. We got issues today. We are talking fighting hunger in the good old USA. How do we get better? How do we become more aware? How do we talk about what's not easy to talk about? How do we know who's hungry? And so we have the incredible Bailey Perkins Wright, who is out of the state of Oklahoma, who is educating us and informing us right now about this topic. And so I would love to hear from the girlfriends. If you have a question, yes, comment. Yes, Gloria.
I do. I have a question, Bailey. I'm so interested in this topic and what you're saying. And part of my question is the rate in Oklahoma so high because of the urban area or lack, when you think of these states that have big farms, where is it in the cities? Is it in the urban area or is it in the rural area was my question at the baseline. And I know that there's a difference between the seniors and the children, but how does that break out?
So you asked a really great question. When we're looking at where hunger resides in Oklahoma, it's across the entire state. It's in rural areas, it's in urban areas. Oklahoma is a very widespread state that in order to be able to get some of the necessities that you need, sometimes it requires reliable transportation. And especially in some of the rural areas, there are folks who are oftentimes miles away from the nearest grocery store. So if your community doesn't have public transit, like a busing system, which often doesn't exist in some of the smaller communities, then you have to have a vehicle to be able to get to that grocery store. We mentioned the seniors who have trouble, right, being able to be mobile and get the things that they need. And so we also see food deserts in some of the urban areas. The east side of Oklahoma City is known as a Black area of town historically. And it just got its first full service grocery store that has a pharmacy, that has a fresh produce area for the first time this year in 25 years. It's been 25 years in the making for folks who live in that area.
Wow.
And we know that, and the same thing for the area of North Tulsa. Oasis Grocery Store is the first full service grocery store in that area in decades, right? So when we're looking at the issue of food insecurity, it's widespread. It's affecting folks who live in rural areas as well as urban areas.
Check
Bailey.
Hold on, Crisette, listen to this.
Okay.
These eight states have the highest rates of food insecurity in the U.S. Mississippi, 18.7%. Louisiana, 18.3%. Alabama, 18.1%.
Wow.
New Mexico, 17.6%. Arkansas, 17.5%. Kentucky, 17.3%. Maine, 16.4%. Oklahoma, yes, 15.2%. And so the states vary for many reasons. Yes. And so, like you guys, I was very surprised where the hungriest states were. And so I think it just, and then it also said that households with children had a substantially higher rate of food insecurity than those without children. So it's just,
I mean, but that Louisiana, Alabama, you know, that just that core right there, for it to be so high in Louisiana, you know, just so high in that core states that are all right next to each other. That's very scary. Very. And the other thing that's very scary, Bailey, is that we don't often talk about it. All the news that we watch, right, all the information that we watch, all the challenges that we're aware of, it's like it is not talked about given the severity of the problem. Very interesting.
You're so right. Because we often call hunger a hidden issue because it's our next door neighbors. It's, you know, the people who live in our communities. And sometimes we often don't see it. One of the stories that I like to share is when Regional Food Bank was founded. One of the founding directors was working with a school and found out that there were football players who continued to break bones. And they learned that some of those students weren't getting nutritious meals on a regular basis to continue fueling their bodies. And that helped us to launch the backpack program to ensure that kids had nutritious foods to eat over a weekend. There was another story of a kid who passed out at school, and they were trying to figure out what was going on, and come to find out that that particular child, the only thing they had to eat that entire weekend was a single hot dog. So not even on a bun, not a side of chips with it, but just a single hot dog for that entire week. And so we have so many kids across our country who have to show up to school, you know. If you had that entire weekend, all he had was a hot dog. And so that inspired us to start a backpack program to ensure that schools can identify those kids who may be food insecure, and they can open kid-friendly items to be able to have some nutritional value over the weekend while they're not in school.
Wow. Bailey, let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to the phone lines. Thank you for calling. We got issues. 313-778-7600. Regina, are you there? Hi, Regina. How are you?
Yes, that is a very great question. So we are a part of, can you all hear?
Okay. Regina, did you have another question? I'm wondering, getting closer to the holidays, do they see an uptick? So how does that work, right? If there's a greater demand, it seems, I guess people seem to be more helpful during the holidays. So does that mean the demand is the same, or are they needing to find more of a food supply during the holidays? So we typically see an uptick in need during the holiday season, especially as people begin to gather to have larger holiday meals together during like Thanksgiving and Christmas. And community food at the Eastern Oklahoma particularly has a holiday serving program to where they provide holiday styled meals that are shelf stable so that families have the ability to participate like their neighbors in being able to have a holiday dinner. And I know that we serve out thousands of pounds of food during that time. And so we do see our most heightened need during the holiday season. Thousands of pounds of food. Wow, 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 wow. Caller Regina, thank you so much for calling. You always bring value to our show, asking the questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we let you go? Anything else? No. I'll let somebody else ask the question. I know that we got a great guest, so thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for calling. We got issues. Wow.
Minute. Crisette, First Lady Crisette, what would you like to share or ask?
Bailey, thank you so much for bringing to light this issue because it is big. You know, so many times, you know, you see commercials, Save the Children, you know, you see the commercials of the malnourished children in Africa and other countries. Yeah. And sometimes we forget that they're right here in the richest country in the world. I mean, it is mind blowing that, you know, this is the richest country and yet we still have individuals that are going to bed at night. So what kind of companies subsidize your program?
So that's a very great question. Last year, between both regional food bank and community food bank, we distributed nearly 100 million pounds of food. And that's a record amount of food for both organizations. Right. And we're able to bring in food and distribute it out from a few ways. So we have donations and grants from private companies and organizations, support from organizations like Feeding America. But then we also have federal supports through programs that were created to help bolster nutrition in this country. So there's a program called the Emergency Food Assistance Program, known as TFAP, that ensures that we're able to take American products and get it in the hands of families who need it. And then there's several other programs that I call the alphabet soup that ensure that we're able to feed kids in the summertime. There are programs that help us feed seniors who are in different community centers. And then, of course, the SNAP program, which to us is the most powerful anti-hunger tool that we have, because for every meal that we provide as a food bank, the supplemental nutrition assistance program, which people knew back in the day as EBT, provides 9 meals for families. It gives them the ability to go to the grocery store, right, to be able to purchase that food with dignity. And so we definitely encourage people, to talk to lawmakers about the effectiveness of the SNAP program, because it truly does keep food on the table for many families. So, to go back to your question, we take in private donations and then donations from the public, because for every dollar that's given to us, we're able to provide 4 meals. And then we also take in donated product and canned food. And so between the federal support and donations from the public, we're able to have reached that 100 million pounds of food distributed by both of our food banks in Oklahoma. And that's just Oklahoma. So.
Okay, Bailey, we know that Oklahoma is not all by itself, because you can go to every state and have similar stories, similar needs. And so we're going to talk about that when we come back, how we can directly make an impact. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining. We got issues. We are back. And our co-hosts are running back to their seats. There's Crisette, and we know where Gloria is. That was a shorter break than usual. And so we're glad that you guys are back joining us. And so, Bailey, oh my goodness, you talked about resources and how people can help. Can you talk a little bit more? Like, give us a couple of websites. How can we contribute? Talk about volunteerism. Now people are in a good mood. They want to help as much as possible. Where do we go to help in our respective cities and that kind of thing? Talk to us about that.
Yes, so that is very important. We cannot do our work without the involvement of people all over this country. Our volunteer centers help us to take the donated product that we get in bulk, or the product that we're able to purchase in bulk, and break it down into smaller packaging to be able to get it into the hands of families in need. And so I know that In our 2 food banks, we're accepting volunteers at this time. And as I mentioned in the beginning, that during the holiday season, we see the highest needs. So we could use the support of the public by going to your nearest food bank or your nearest food pantry and signing up to volunteer to help families get food. You can always host a food or fund drive to be able to raise funds, to be able to help us purchase food. And so, as I mentioned, for every dollar that food banks are given, we're able to provide at least 4 meals. And so we are able to
Bailey,
make that
how
dollar
do you,
stretch.
that's amazing that we can provide for 4 meals from one donation. Is that what you're saying?
With $1.
And so,
With
Right,
$1.
for
That's
$1. That's crazy.
$1.
Yeah.
And so, how do you host a food bank drive? How do you host that?
Sure. I encourage all listeners to go to feedingamerica.org and find your nearest food bank, because each food bank has on their website information that outlines the types of foods that are most needed and what they're accepting and not accepting at this time. And then ways to sign up to be able to get the boxes. So I know in Oklahoma, we provide boxes to those in the community who want to set up a donation drive to be able to take in those foods and bring it to our facility. And so I encourage everyone to go to feedingamerica.org. And then those who are listening from Oklahoma, they can go to rfbo.org or okfoodbank.org if you live in the eastern part of the state. And then we can set you up to help you host a food or fund drive. And then from my lens, I'd be remiss as a policy advocate to not encourage everyone to take time to talk with your elected leaders, especially your state representatives and senators and your federal representatives and senators, because they hold a lot of power in deciding how much money goes into nutrition programs, right? They decide how programs will operate and who qualifies and who doesn't, right? And so it's really important that we're having those conversations, especially as we think about our neighbors who are facing hard times. There are people who may be facing eviction in this season. There may be people, who are getting hours cut at this time. And public policy is the way to be able to get those quick interventions to families, right? Or even I mentioned the SNAP program and how that's effective in helping to keep more families fed in this season. So how we fund that program and how much the benefit is decided by our elected leaders. So have those conversations with those elected leaders, because the more people who are talking about hunger, the more it becomes a priority, and we can encourage our elected leaders to do something about it.
Right.
Good.
Go
ahead, Gloria.
Yeah, I am back here where you said the minimum wage. Did you say the minimum wage in Oklahoma was $7? Is that what you said?
It's still $7.25. And so
Honestly,
we know
you're
that
out
the
here
cost
fighting
of
for
goods continues to
$15,
go
and
up.
that's half of it. What'd you say?
Yeah. No, I said we know that the cost of goods continues to go up. People's rent continues to rise. And so
Inflation is higher than ever.
Depends on that employer. So
okay. So then my other thought goes to this, Bailey. People like myself, when the pandemic hit, we overbought. We bought beans that I will never eat. Those many beans, like never. I mean, we have food, but then you think about the COVID and how protective people are. But I believe that there's a lot of people who have an abundance of food sitting there, and there's a lot of people who don't have any at all. And so is it to the food banks that we take them? Because cash is king for sure. But some people have food. They have food. We went into overload. And that's real right about now. It's really real.
Gloria, thank you for raising that, because if people are looking in their cabinets and are like, ooh, I bought a little bit extra, or I know my family's not going to eat, this additional can of green beans, there is a family who could utilize it, especially in this holiday season.
Right.
And so, especially for families who have shelf-stable food. So if you have that, the canned items or the things that will, have a longer shelf life that are unopened, definitely bring those items to the food banks, because the food banks can then distribute them out to families and pantries in need.
Hey, Bailey, I have a question. We've done several shows on how during this pandemic, there's so many individuals, so many job opportunities, and that the wage has increased because workers are saying, you're not going to pay me pennies anymore. So I was still kind of shocked. Have the wages increased during COVID in Oklahoma, or are they still wavering at $7.65?
So it depends on the industry and it depends on the employer. I saw a hamburger shop, I won't say the name of it, but I saw a note on the door a couple weeks ago that said their starting pay was $8.55 an hour. And I'm sure that employer doesn't have, health benefits, retirement benefits for those folks, and those other things that provide those wraparound supports for families as well. And so it just all depends on the employer. There's folks in Oklahoma who have challenges having access to broadband, because that's one of the areas that we're seeing across the country, is that there's a lot of folks that are moving to remote work, but that's only an option for those who can afford, internet and have a computer and some of those other things that can be a luxury. And so it just really depends on there are some employers, that pay, $15 an hour or more. But also, if that job is, 30 miles away from you and you don't have reliable transportation, it could be a challenge getting there. A friend of mine who's a college classmate who's now serves in our Oklahoma legislature, during the campaign trail, his vehicle was stolen. And so he used that time between not having a vehicle and then getting one, I believe, which took him about a year, to take that opportunity to learn the busing system firsthand. And some of the things that he reported is that sometimes it took him a couple of hours to get to the places that he needed to get, to understand the busing routes, because if there's delays, then that causes you to not be able to go to that place that you need to be on time, or it causes you to be home, at a later hour. And that's if you live in a community that has that type of transportation, right? And so there's just a lot of different challenges in the workforce. And even if, there is a person who may be making $15 an hour and they have a couple of kids, that doesn't necessarily pay for their health insurance or make sure their kids get cleats to play soccer. And so there's just a number of different challenges that people face. And then, as I mentioned, I can't imagine what the families in Kentucky are facing right now, or other parts, the families who have lost everything. And if they didn't have a savings account or retirement account, because a majority of Americans don't even have $1,000 in a savings account, right? And that causes some folks to have to start completely over. And so there's just a number of challenges that go into employment and then people being able to make ends meet.
I have a question, Bailey. You know how some political people take on different causes. Is there a senator? Is there somebody that's big up there that stands up for hunger, like some other senators stand up for certain causes? Do you guys have any advocate that particularly pay attention to this issue?
Sure. I would say there are a number of lawmakers at the state and federal level who are attuned to the issue of hunger. I'm trying to remember which committee off the top of my head. There was a federal committee that had a hearing on the issue of hunger and ways to address it in this country. And then sometimes we think about, is it a Republican issue or a Democratic issue? And the reality is, hunger doesn't care what side of the aisle you fall on, right? Hunger can hit any household. Right. And so I think that's what makes it such a powerful issue that so many people can get behind, especially on the issue of childhood hunger. When we talk about making sure that kids are fed, there are a number of lawmakers who want to do more to ensure that kids have the ability to have food in their stomachs.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll be right back. Thank you for joining. We got issues with the force of friendship with Bailey Perkins Wright with food banks out of the state of Oklahoma. We are fighting hunger. We're not just talking about it. We want to do something about it. We'll be right back. We're back. Yes. We are back with the girlfriends, Sabrina, Caterina, Crisette, and Gloria, and our new girlfriend, a new member of the tribe, Bailey Perkins Wright, out of Oklahoma. Yes, Bailey, when you come on our show, we adopt you as part of the tribe. So you are stuck together, okay? Yes. Girlfriends out there making a difference. Let's go to the phone lines. I think we have a caller. Karen, are you there? Hi, Karen.
Hello.
Thank you for calling.
We got issues. Okay, I didn't quite hear you. Say it again. I said, thank you for calling. We got issues. What's your question, comment, or concern today? Oh, okay. I'm just wondering what kind of protocols that you have in place. Since we're in the middle of the pandemic, what protections do they have? You mean when you go volunteering? Delivering the food. Oh, delivering the food, volunteering? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Bailey? Yes, so that depends on where you are, because different food banks and different pantries have
programs and the ways that they operate. And so I definitely encourage you to go to feedingamerica.org and then type in your zip code to find the food banks and the pantries in your area. So that way you can reach out to them and say, hey, I'm interested in volunteering. I would love to be a driver to help get food to people in need, because we're constantly looking for ways for people to be engaged and to help us in this fight against hunger.
Karen, do you have any other questions? Thank you for calling. Oh, you're welcome. No, not at this time. That's one thing I was curious about, because I'm a little hesitant still, because not many people are wearing their masks and things like that in this area. Yeah, very good, you guys. Yeah, we have to be on it.
Two people, family members today in the hospital, very sick with COVID. We are definitely deep in it, and we must be vigilant about it. We are proponents of getting vaccinated, getting boosted, and still wearing your mask when you're out and about if you're around unvaccinated people. We also know that vaccinations, that's not going to keep you necessarily from getting COVID, but we believe and pray that it keeps you from getting deathly ill. And so, Karen, thank you for being wanting to check into volunteerism, but also being safe. Thank you so much for calling. We got issues. Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much.
You know,
Sabrina,
Karen's bringing across.
I would lift is
go ahead, Bailey, please.
Many of the food banks and pantries, as I mentioned in the beginning, will provide a box to people. So if there's areas that you want to partner with and you want to leave a box and then work with, people in the community and say, hey, we're going to do a distribution, drop off your extra items or bring food to donate, and we'll collect them and take them to the food bank. That's one way you can do it with having limited contact with people. Or even, doing a social media drive and saying, hey, we're collecting donations that's going to go to this food bank, because those dollars really do go far. And so there are different ways that you can support the work of the food banks and then remain safe during this pandemic that's still ongoing.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Awesome.
I think that's just so critical that she would ask that question, because we're going to be in the COVID arena for a minute. And these things that still need us to volunteer, still need us to show up, still need us to participate is a priority. So I think that's two things are happening. One is that we can get vaccinated, but the other thing is to acknowledge the fact that people who are looking for volunteers are doing things to make sure that people are safe so that they can have the volunteers, because without the volunteers, it won't happen. Without the volunteers, a lot more people are going to be suffered because they don't have the help. Bailey, I'm very interested in you. I'm interested in your journey. What is it about your journey that made you follow a path to get you to where you are today? Can you tell us a little bit about you and your path? Because your position and being at the table, we talk about that often, getting to the table. Your journey to get to the table will inspire other people to get to the table as well. Can you tell us a little bit about you and your journey?
Yes, so I appreciate that question. I grew up in Southwest Oklahoma in a town called Lawton, where I was a very talkative child. My very first visit to our state capital was at the age of 8, and our state capital is in Oklahoma City. And I remember thinking that, wow, this place is incredible. The grandeur of our state capitals, all of them look pretty similar in design. So I'm sure if, the listeners who are on, visited their state capital, I'm sure you'll see beautiful architecture and history of your communities. And that influenced me at a very young age. And growing up, I grew up in a divorced household. So in my formative years, I was raised by my mother with assistance from my grandmother. And so growing up in the summertime, my mom couldn't afford to send us to like a summer camp or childcare. And so my mom worked at our church as our church secretary at that time. So we would go in the summer times with her to our church, and our church had a feeding ministry. And different organizations would come into our church gym and would bring food and prepare it for those in our community. And my mom would allow me to go into that kitchen and help out. Because one, I wanted something to do. And then secondly, I was truly interested in being able to serve. And I remember seeing people who were my age in the food line, needing clothes. And it really shaped my perspective and wanting to help people. And also just to be a voice to change things that seemed unfair, to be that voice for justice. And so that has stayed with me through my lifetime. Went to college and learned that there's opportunities for people to be in the public policy space, because ultimately we can look at, meeting people's individual needs at the moment, but asking the question of why this issue exists in the first place is so critical to be able to make long-term change. And that's something I've always wanted to be a part of. And so I had the opportunity to work in Arkansas for 2 years for an organization called Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families, where I was doing education policy work. Then I moved back to Oklahoma to work for an organization called the Oklahoma Policy Institute in Tulsa, where I got to do the lobbying side of the work. So in Arkansas, I was doing public policy analysis to look at what does the data say and how do we make that information digestible to help people understand what's going on in the communities around them. And then when I moved to Oklahoma, I had the chance to be able to take that information and explain what it means to lawmakers to help them shape policy decisions, but also empowering communities to know that they have power, that they have a voice, that on this issue of hunger, for instance, they can work with their lawmakers and other decision makers to make the changes in their communities that we want to see. And so that's part of my journey of getting to this place today and working with our food banks on the issues of ending hunger and ending poverty in our state and in our country.
Ending hunger. What a challenge.
Right.
What a challenge.
Wow.
It takes a village. It takes all of us to help make that difference. Bailey, we thank you for your work. We thank you for having a servant's heart. We thank you for encouraging us to get out there and work with our local food banks. Well, my friends, we got issues. We try to be not of the issue, but solve the issues. We'll see you tomorrow. Same place, same time, same station. Peace. Bye. Thank you, Bailey. Peace.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.